Good evening and welcome to another episode of Apolitically Incorrect Guyana. My name is KIAN Jabouр and as usual, I am your host this beautiful Friday evening. I guess I should once again, for another week, thank GPL for making sure we have lights on right at this moment. I think I had 3 blackouts for the day already, but nonetheless, we have it on right now so I can have this wonderful show for you this evening. I tossed back and forth with how I was going to, what I was going to talk about, how I was going to run this show today. And because I usually have a guest on by this time, but at least in this sequence of shows. But I decided I'm going to come on again by myself because I always feel like I have so much to say. I get worried that I might run out of things to say, but you guys know me. I am never short, and once I get on a roll, it just kind of keeps going. So what I'd like to do today to start this show is I'm starting off on actually a very positive note for you guys. All right, it's not all doom and gloom. Okay, what I'd like to do is I'm going to ask the operator to pull up the first headline that I want to discuss, which is actually a beautiful headline that I think all Guyanese need to pay very close attention to. And it is out by the Guyana Times, which is a PPP newspaper, and it says a sum of $126.3 billion or US $600 million has been earned by Guyana in the first quarter of 2024 based on the receipt of oil payments into the Natural Resource Fund, which shows that the majority of this money came from oil profits. So Guyana has earned $126 billion in 2024. That's a lot of money. It's not a few dollars, okay? That's $600 million US dollars in 3 months. In 3 months. Now, I don't think I need to do the calculation for all of you out there. That's just the first quarter. Well, we all know that there's 4 quarters in a whole. So now you guys can put together, just do a little quick multiplication of how much money Guyana is earning. We are filthy, filthy rich. That's wonderful news. We have more money than we can ever know what to do with. And they claim that this money is going to last 20 years or longer. Now, not only did we earn $600 million US dollars in the first quarter, but that is expected to continuously double as year after year goes on, because they're adding more ships, they're adding more FPSOs. That means that we're going to be pumping more oil. That's a lot of money. Now, I love hearing that Guyana is more rich than we'll ever know what to do with, but I did grow up, and this is where, I guess the curious side of me comes out. Now, I grew up in Guyana hearing from my parents and grandparents that Guyana could be the breadbasket of the Caribbean if managed properly. And I sit there and say, that's such an interesting thing to say, because what they're basically trying to say is Guyana has never been poor. I mean, rice, sugar, diamond, bauxite, timber, gold, sand, water, fresh water for that matter. And the list goes on. We've never been a poor country. Now, we sit here and we try to figure out to ourselves, well, look at all the progress that's occurring now. And why hasn't this happened before is what I always ask myself. And people, argue, oh, well, we didn't have money before. But that's not true, obviously, because we've been always just look at the gold declarations every year. I mean, it's hundreds of millions of US dollars. We've never not had money. Now, I always sit there and I tell myself, well, if we've always had money and now we have more money, and if during the time we had money before, it was mismanaged, then I'm not sure what's leading me to believe that it's not going to be mismanaged again. Now everybody's going to sit there. Oh, here we go again. Here we go again with the mismanagement, when it's just progress, progress, progress. Now I'm going to bring up the next headline here, which I guess I'll show you guys. It says, Turkish company to supply 36 megawatts to ease blackouts. Right, the government of Guyana has purchased blah, blah, blah from a company, 36 megawatts. Same thing. Okay, so that's an interesting headline to me. Because the first word that always comes to my mind, when I read things like this, the first thing that stands out to me is, what do you mean ease blackouts? I mean, electricity is the staple of progress at minimum. You know, electricity and fresh water. That in my mind are like the necessities of life now. And I sit there and I go, but what do you mean ease blackouts? That means in this day and age, in 2024, we are still getting blackouts. Now, I watched a press conference just now. I'm sure all of you did. I watched a press conference by Mr. President, Dr. Irfan Ali, and he just had it. So please, when you're finished this, please go and watch it. And it was on the blackouts. And the first word out of his mouth is, this is what we've inherited. And I said, oh, and I keep going. Why do you keep saying that? Now, you ran this country, your government, the PPP government ran this country for 23 years previously to APNU going in, all of which we've had blackouts right through. Now I'm sitting there going, but we've had blackouts all the way through. Blackouts, blackouts, blackouts. Now, APNU went in for 5 years, in which we got blackouts as well. Maybe not as much, but we got blackouts as well. And now the PPP are back in for 4 years. This is their 4th year. And we are still getting blackouts. And they are still blaming APNU. Now, that's what mismanagement means to me. I am worried because we are earning so much money every single day. Every single day we are earning so much money. And you are still blaming APNU from 4 years ago about blackouts now? Who are you blaming the 23 years before that? And everyone sits there and they say, I read the comments. I sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I sometimes read the comments. I don't always do it because honestly, it's just a comedy show in there. But my favorite comment is, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I like that comment. But I feel like Georgetown could be built in 4 years. When I look around at the infrastructure around here, for less than 1 million people, we can't get this right in 4 years with unlimited money? Who are you? How can you blame other people for that? That's the definition of mismanagement. Not to mention, we had this problem in December. We just had this issue in December 2023, 3-4 months ago. So put it that way. December was was 1 quarter away. We earned $600 million of free money. Okay, that's $600 million in our pockets. What have you done with the $600 million in the last quarter? Why have you not fixed how could you tell us we are still running out of electricity? How could you tell us that, oh, our generators are failing or the facilities have not been upgraded? You guys think Georgetown is a big place? We could drive down every single person in this country can drive around Georgetown in an hour. Let's say there was drive around on a Sunday. I love to do it. Just take a drive on a Sunday. See how long it takes you to get around this whole town, this whole city. You could drive almost every road in this town in 1 hour, okay? You can't tell me that you had months and 4 years, or fair enough, 3 years previous to that, in which you've been earning this money. You can't tell me that you couldn't have upgraded this system in time. Give me a break. You know what else I'm going to do to prove my point to you? They have not done anything with our fire emergency systems in this country. And this is a sore topic for me because I think it's the saddest day in this country's history with what happened with Madia, with our children in Madia. And I look around and I look at these infrastructure in these schools and I look at the fire hydrants and nothing is being done. Nothing. So I'm clueless. I'm clueless as to how this is possible that people continuously tell me that this is a well-managed country. I can't understand it. These guys have reached a point where I'm convinced that, I listened to the press conference, like I said today, and all the president did was blame APNU. Now, I'm going to bring up another interesting article, and I'm going to get political here for a second, because at some point in time, the people have to understand, one, the way we think, but two, what ANUG is trying to stand for. Now, I'm going to bring up an article, it was in yesterday's papers. Oh, no, not that one. Sorry. It was I'll get to that one in a second. Can you bring up the Turkish company that we're purchasing electricity from? I'll get back to that one in a sec. So, spoiler alert, that's our next conversation. But, sorry. Oh, that's the Turkish one. Sorry, I brought that up 2 seconds ago again. Sorry, to bring it back up again. Now, what our job has to be here, Turkish company to supply 36 megawatts to East Blackwood. Sorry, as I continue the thought process once again, is that if I see the government making a decision like this, and I'm part of ANUG, which we hope can have the balance of power, the one seat in parliament that's required to hold the government accountable, the first thing I want to do is see that contract. Because I want to know how much they're purchasing electricity for from that company. Because all that represents is mismanagement. That is millions of dollars. Millions of US dollars. I think it says it in the article that it's like something like 27 million US dollars. Sorry, I just glanced at the article. That they're paying this company. And that's money that didn't need to be spent. Now, this is the same money that the government is claiming GPL doesn't have. What do you mean GPL doesn't have it, but yet you have enough money to pay some random company to... By the way, this is a ship that's floating into the harbor that is going to be turning on its generators on the ship to give the grid power, just so you understand how that works. Now, what are we talking about here? That's completely unnecessary. And if I were in the position, which I hope ANUG can be, I want to have some level of accountability on a project like this. You just show up, pay some emergency company, which we all know, just like you overpaid for the generators in December. We know this is you're desperately overpaying for this. Now, who's to blame for this? This is taxpayers' money being misspent. Who is being held accountable for this? That's the kind of accountability I'm talking about, which is why we need a third party in parliament. Okay, we have to have a minority government. This is just plain and simple, as far as I'm concerned, fraud and mismanagement. 3-4 months ago, we had the same problem. Now, all of a sudden, you pretend like you didn't know it was going to happen. So you pay some random Turkish ship to drive in here and give us power. What happened to the generators that you promised? It didn't even last 3 months. There was how many millions of US? Guys, I know for all of you, strong PPPs out there that are commenting, I understand that you guys can't accept this, but this is reality. This is just plain and simple. Because then you sit down there and you hear them say, oh, GPL, and this is again out there. I said it on the last show, I'll say it again. Please, I encourage you to ask your GPL employed friends about this. But the government continues to send memos to the employees that they can't be paid overtime, they can't have salary increases because the company has no money. The government keeps saying that GPL has no money. So the employees can't get overtime, can't get salary increases, and no maintenance can be done on our systems. So $600 million earned in the first quarter, as you saw. $27 million to bring in a random ship to pump electricity that you knew we were going to have a problem with 6 months ago. And then December, you buy how much ever millions of US dollars in generators, secondhand garbage generators. But no, this is not your fault. Here's what I'm going to throw to the rest of you, and just to throw another angle to this. I feel like I should tell you, but I'm going to hope all of you can do a little bit of research, because I feel like you guys listen to me and you're like, oh, this guy just rambles off the top of his head. But I encourage you all to go and do a little bit of research. I want you to go and tell me, I want you to do a little bit of research and find out how much money is owed to GPL by state-owned entities. So the various ministries, how much do each one of those ministries owe GPL? God only knows why they're not paying. Guyana, for example, that was in the news. I know you can find a news article on that. If you can't, you're lying. Go and find out how much money Guyana alone owes GPL. Okay, that's what I want you to find out. All right, do a quick research. I'm gonna ask a favor to anybody that is, somewhat inclined to be transparent. Please Google it right now and post it in the comments. Just Google, how much money does GWI, Guyana Water Authority Inc., or Guyana Water Inc., how much does Guyana owe GPL? Okay? And then I know there are articles out there with the Prime Minister's office and a few other of the ministries, because I know it was an issue of contention not too long ago. So I know it was in the news recently, maybe within the last year or two. All right, so I know it's on Google. And just to help you guys out, if you're looking for things on Google, just type in how much money does Guyana owe GPL, and then on Google there's something that says news. I think it goes gallery or photos, and then it says all, and then it says news. So just click on the news tab right underneath the search bar, and you can see it, and it'll come up on one of the news things. And it's a very interesting number. Okay, what I can promise you, okay, just a little giveaway here just before somebody posted, it's in the billions. It's in the billions. So how can a company that is owned by the government, that is run by the government, I don't like to say owned by the government, it's owned by the people of Guyana, but is run by the government, the PPP current government, but also the other offices, the other PPP run offices are owing that entity billions of dollars, but yet the government can continue to say, our other offices haven't paid GPL, so the GPL is broke. That's not mismanagement. Isn't that mismanagement? That has to be the theme of the show, right? Mismanagement. I don't even like to bring up Guy Suko. Talking about, every time the word mismanagement comes to my mind, Guy Suko comes up. So on this note, moving along very quickly and rapidly into the theme mismanagement, I'd like the next article to please come up, which is what video just brought up. There it is. Now, foreign contractors take Guyana to court for US $90 million over delays in Wales gas to shore projects. Just to read the article, the contractors of the Wales West Bank Demerara gas to energy project have initiated legal proceeding against the government of Guyana for US $90 million in cost overruns. Now, this was shown by this was an article that they're mimicking from the Retours, all right, which is very, very popular worldwide news outlet. So this was world news, all right. This article was world news. The Retours posted this, and please feel free to use Google. Retours posted that two international companies are taking the government of Guyana to court over cost overruns. Now, I sound like a stuck record. So please just Google what cost. I feel like it's a bit more of an education for you guys. Please Google what cost overruns are. All right. But cost overruns, just in case you don't believe me, cost overruns are when the stipulated cost or projected costs of a project are more than budgeted for. So a little bit more of an education for you guys just on how these things work. So when a contract is sent out to the public, what happens, where they get the number from is the local authorities do an assessment on the project. So they check they check the quantities that are required of materials, they check the labor costs, they check the works that are going to be required, etc., etc. They put their projections in place, and then they say, listen, we're putting out a bid to the public to come and bid on this project, to complete this project or to work on this project. And what it is, in the bid package, they have the government or engineered estimate, okay? Or they say government estimate or, project estimate, however they want to label it. And that estimate is through the analysis of the government. So what has happened here is that analysis was done for the Gas to Shore project, and the package was sent out to these companies. These big international companies bidded for it, and they won. They said, oh, this is going to cost 700 million US. Okay, they looked at it and they said, okay, cool. We're going to work with this project. But there they go. They only have come to now realize that the information that they were fed was incorrect. It was wrong. Now they are sitting there, these international companies are sitting there saying, you misled us, and now we as a company are put on the back foot, right? I haven't obviously looked at the legal documents. I don't know what their legal bases are, but they've carried the country to court. They carried the government of Guyana to court. So we're for $90 million US. Now, I don't know how else to once again portray to you what mismanagement is. This is pure mismanagement. How many other areas do you want me to point out mismanagement? By the way, the Gas to Shore project is now scheduled to come online in the last quarter of 2025. Now, that always makes me laugh because that's also elections time. Oh, interesting, huh? Interesting. You see a little correlation there? Nonetheless, let's wait and see what happens. All right. My personal projection is that that's not going to happen. But I saw Vice President Barajagya's last press conference. He did say that the delays are Exxon's fault. So I found that part interesting. By the way, I just so you guys know, I do take a large portion of my time out to listen to the president speak. I listen to the vice president speak. I pay very close attention to these things because I feel at least I should come as informed as possible to have a conversation like this with you guys. All right. Nonetheless, we're reaching a point now where the consumers, being the taxpayers, are feeling this burden over and over, and blackouts on blackouts on blackouts. I don't want to dwell too much into blackouts because I have another interesting conversation to talk about. I don't want to dwell too heavily on blackouts but I think, guys, at this point in time, if you haven't realized that mismanagement is the only real reason for these blackouts, I'm not sure how else to explain this to you. If you still feel that the government is doing their best, then I don't know how to show you that if this is their best, then you need to worry a little bit more. Okay, you need to be more worried than I am. If you are, you see, for me, just on a lighter, funnier note, for me, I believe the government is doing this on purpose. I don't believe this is their best, and this is a shit job. Now, if you are one of those people out there that are stating over and over and over that the government is doing their best, then you need to worry a lot more than I am, because in my mind, I think I can force them to do better. I think if we create a minority government, I can make the government do better. I can hold them accountable and transparent, and they will have to do better for the Guyanese people. If you are one of those people out there that are saying that this is the best that the government can do, and Jesus, I don't know what to tell you anymore. I don't know how to help you. That's worrying. You should do some self-analysis. So that was a bit of a lighter note, but that's just all for all of you to have a laugh. All right. Now I'm going to talk a little bit political here. I'm going to get a little bit political here because I think this is important. Okay. I bring this up. I've said it briefly, but I'd like to have like a segment on it here. Now, our 2024 budget, just so you guys know, we're still in the first quarter of 2024. Our 2024 budget that was passed 2 months ago, January, sorry, which was 3 months ago. Our first budget for the year. That makes me so sad because the president has already hinted that they're going to get supplementary budgets. Okay, meaning they're going back for more money already. Was $1.1 trillion. $1.1 trillion was our 2024 budget. And this $1.1 trillion is supposed to have lasted us the entire year. All right. Now, what's interesting about this is that when you do your analysis on this budget, if you were to take all of the taxpayers' dollars, now I'm talking about personal income taxpayers. I mean, I'm talking about your VAT, your PAY, your duties on vehicles, your personal taxation, okay? It only contributes, and listen to me carefully, that the personal taxation, the personal taxes contributed by taxpayers to our national budget of $1.1 trillion only accounts for 8% of that budget. 8% of the $1.1 trillion was contributed by taxpayers. 8%. Now, again, as somebody that tries to look at this as logically as possible, I know for a fact, because I know all of you out there, that no matter how you twist or turn it, we all know they thief in more than 8%. All right? If not, they are mismanaging by at least 8%, which shows that 8% being removed from our budget, if this country was managed properly, if you remove the 8%, it wouldn't make a difference. So, as everyone knows, taxes are implemented on citizens for the government to be able to have money to manage the country. Now, if you don't need taxpayers' money to run the country, why are you charging taxes to the citizens? If you don't need the money, if it only makes up 8%, then why are you charging the citizens with such a heavy burden? You don't need the money. Now, this is where I have to get political, because hopefully, when a new and united Guyana becomes that minority holder in parliament, gets those couple seats in parliament, and can hold the government accountable, because the government cannot just make decisions on their own, and they have to account for the money that they're spending, then the fact of the matter is, I am a firm believer that, and an advocate, that taxes have to be brought down. I'll give you an example of one tax that I can say I will be the first person to lay the bill on the table for a new and united Guyana, is that we do not need to be paying these duties on vehicles, these types of duties. I had Timothy Jonas on the show, who is probably one of the most prominent lawyers in the country. He's a senior counsel, so obviously you know how experienced he is. He was on the show with me a couple weeks back, and through his work, obviously they would, as lawyers, they would need to do research for their various court cases. Had completely reflected in his research, and then showed us or told us that only 1% of the vehicles of the big four-door luxury vehicles, four-door pickups or Prados or Land Cruisers or whatever, the president's new Escalade, for example, only 1% of those vehicles that fall into that 100% tax bracket actually pay duties for those vehicles. 1%. So now the question you have to ask yourself is, if only 1% of all these Prados and big vehicles on the road and four-door pickups and so on, if only 1% of them are paying the rightful duties, then the country's not earning any income from it. So why are you charging it? What is the benefit to the Guyanese people to be paying those taxes? Because we're not seeing the money. There is no money if only 1% paying. So you have to ask yourself, at some point in time, what exactly are we paying these exorbitant taxes for? Okay, and at some point in time, I've been having a good time, talking to, a lot of people around me and so on, because I think people are quickly starting to realize when big things like these blackouts happen, people kind of sit down there and go, they start to question what is the root cause. And you start to quickly see that there is a system set up here, a system of, I always use the term oppression. There are these taxes, these burdens of expenses and blackouts and poor water coming in our pipes. These have to be purposely done. It has to be purposeful. And we have to start realizing at some point, guys, that things have to change. There has to be a change in this country. And if you keep voting for the same people over and over and expecting different results, then you're the problem. Don't have any complaints, because you're the one that's participating in encouraging the problems that we have in this country. Put your vote somewhere else. Put your vote anywhere else. I've gotten into politics because I feel like I have to at least try. Right? So somebody has to try to make a difference in the country. We could have easily done like everyone else and joined PPP or join APNO. As I say over and over, the same opportunities are laid on the table. Come and get the contract here, man. Come and build a road. Come and build houses, man. We can get the contracts, but we choose not to because that doesn't solve anything. All right? It doesn't fix the problems for our children. And if you're one of those people that are just thinking about your pockets and trying to get as much money as possible, then I partly understand, because again, you're just fighting for scraps and just anything to get your head above water. But then for all of you out there that have way too much, as we can see, how, the friends and family are spending, then it's just immoral. That's all it really is at the end of the day. It's just immoral what you're doing. You're just greedy, because you're not helping anybody in the country. You're just helping yourself. And that's the biggest problem we have here. Nobody helps anybody anymore in this country. It's desperately sad. I'm going to ask the operator to pull up the next clip. The next, I think I sent you a whole bunch. You can just pull up one of them that, one of my favorites. Here, I'm going to turn my Instagram viewers onto this. If you want to talk politics, then let's do it. Big PPP at the back there, by the way. Remuneration will grow in the future, Jagdeo assures teachers. As part of major plans, and geez, newsroom, we love you guys. Major plans, quoted, to develop the education sector in Guyana, Vice President Barrett Jagdeo on Thursday promised teachers that they will enjoy better salaries in the future. Well, guys, I was a teacher and I read that and I saw the beginning of this show and I saw that the government in this quarter alone earned 600 million US dollars, and I would have to start wondering to myself, when in the future, and let me guess, after 2025 elections, I'll give you a little secret. They're going to give you more money after 2025 elections. That's the secret, okay? And if you guys still believe them, my hat off to you for being such staunch believers. What do you want people to sell? I have a bridge to sell you. What's interesting about this whole situation is that we think we've reached a point now where in December last year, the government only gave public service workers 6.5% salary increase. I think that's going to lead into my next conversation. I think if there's anything all Guyanese can attest to now is that our cost of living has risen significantly more than 6.5%. So I think that's a slap in the face because, again, just through a basic facade point of view, is that if you know that cost of living has risen, let's say 30%, and you've given the people a 6.5% raise, then you are dropping their standard of living by over, 20%. And I think that's, I think that's despicable. I think that only goes to show you that they have no interest whatsoever in helping anybody's lives get better, just their own, or at least their friends and family. If you know that, every Guyanese knows, if you know that cost of living, all the greens in the market have gone up, fuel has gone up, rent has gone up in the country, basic stuff, meat has gone up, everything, our electricity bills have gone up, then you know that 6.5% is not enough money. Then you have to ask yourself, what has happened to the other 23.5%? They just have to pay that? Everybody just has to pay that out of their pockets? How, you tell me how anybody can survive then. You've just made people's lives worse. No wonder the teachers are on the road. Now, I'm in business. I'm gonna shift gears because I told you this is my next topic of conversation. I'm gonna shift gears for 2 seconds here. Now, I like to consider myself fairly young, but more importantly, every time I speak about this, I think about my daughter. Years and years and years have passed now that scientists have been telling us that global warming is going to destroy the planet. We are in trouble. Now, I don't know if you guys read the BBC article. It was just out like 2 days ago. They said we are moving into our 8th or 9th month now of every single consecutive month being a record-breaking hot month, okay, in heat, in temperature rising, okay? Now, I think the slogan of the article was, we're stepping into uncharted territories now, and it's about to get worrying. Now, let me tell you how I pay so close attention to this, and not even just out of necessity for myself. I sell coconut water at my restaurant. All right, I sell coconut water. Do you know coconut water has risen by about 15% in the last week? And here's how far I go. Well, I immediately say, well, what the hell? That's a lot of money, right? Why has coconut water gone up so much? Only to find out from the Essequibo farmers that produce most of the coconuts in the country that the coconuts that they're getting now, because of the weather patterns, and it's so interesting because the farmers know this, the weather patterns have been causing the coconuts to produce less water. So the actual coconuts that they're receiving are smaller and have less water inside. So the supply of coconut water is dwindling. Obviously, if supply dwindles and demand will obviously go up, the price will have to raise. So just as an indication of what is coming, you guys have to see by now that we're in trouble here. The weather patterns that have occurred just for the last 9 months are about to affect us more than we can imagine. Now, here's my prediction. And all the farmers out there that are listening, please weigh in. I am predicting over the next year, and that's me being very generous because I think it's going to be much shorter than that. But over the next year, for argument's sake, our cost of living, just based on our food items, is going to raise by another 20% in this country. And that's just strictly based on the climate situation, on global warming. Now, we haven't had rain in forever. The fields are dry, the rivers are dry, everything, the conservancies are dry. That means vegetables are not getting enough water to grow, so they're going to produce less. That means animals. I was on a farm one day and somebody was showing me this humongous cow, a dairy producing cow, a milk producing cow. And this has to be the biggest cow I've ever seen in my life. And they were telling me how much water a day these cows drink. Now, you are talking about, they said like half a black tank, so 200 gallons. I don't think it was that much. It was just a regular farm. But the amount of water that these animals consume, there is no way, just so you understand how farming works here, especially in cattle. The cattle is more or less free range. We don't have humongous farms with thousands and thousands of head of cattle that are fed on a scheduled basis. Majority of the food, and drink that these cattle get, that we get the meat from, are free range, meaning they're out there, in hundreds of acres of land looking for their own food and water, right? It's not produced by the farmers. In other countries, they whether it be hay or grass or, whatever type of food they produce, they give it to the farmers. It doesn't work like that here, okay? So it's very interesting that what is currently occurring in the world is going to have in our weather patterns, is going to have a very dire effect over the next coming year. So with this being said, and our power supply, the amount of money we're losing with our power supply, I don't know what, I'm genuinely worried for all of our sakes, but what's the plan moving forward to ensure our citizens are developing? The progress that you guys are preaching, what is the plan to determine that the people are going to get the most of it, the brunt of it? Because I'm sorry, building 3 roads and putting up a couple of statues at the end of it, although nice roads, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate the one that's going to come from Eccles to connect to Diamond or wherever. I appreciate that road too. But that's not all that is required for a country to run. That's not all that's required for people to feel the benefit of a developing country. I'm sorry, everywhere in the world has traffic, all right? Thank you for one small aspect. But for all of you out there that's saying that Rome wasn't built in a day, I'm sorry. There's less than 1 million people. There's more than enough money. So when are we and how are we feeling it? Because if 2025 comes around again and this government is going to start preaching, which you just saw from our vice president, don't worry, it's coming in the future. When in the future? Stop believing the bullshit at some point. If you're sitting down in blackout right now, figure it out. Have that epiphany that we need to be able to hold our government accountable. We have to be able to. And the only way to do that is through a minority government. Is through, let Irfan and Jagdeo be president and vice president. No problem. But they have to be held accountable in parliament. We need those seats in parliament to go to another party. Okay? To be able to ensure that the government is accountable and they're managing the country correctly. That's the only way to do it. Because we've tried everything else, guys. And at some point in time, a change has to happen. Right? And I'm sorry, these hotels that we're calling progress, in which Guyanese are going to work as maids and cooks and clean rooms and wash people clothes and drive people car, that's not progress for our people. Talk to me when you're showing me that our people are going to be staying in these hotel rooms. Talk to me when the people of Guyana can afford to stay in the Marriott, okay? When the average citizen could stay in the Marriott. Don't talk to me about big hotels that more foreigners can stay in and reap the benefits of Guyana's natural resources more than we ever will. the foreigners coming in. Foreigners coming here, getting jobs, paying no taxes, but yet, using all of our facilities and getting paid 10 times more based on our oil, but yet Guyanese can't get paid the same thing. I'm not in the mood to talk about that. You guys have to figure it out at some point in time. Guys, on that note, I am pretty much going to wrap up the show here. What I'm going to close it off with is a little bit of my political contribution. I am a part of a new and United Guyana, ANUG. It's a party with a little cell phone that I hope you put your X next to come 2025. But we have a fundraising barbecue coming up on Sunday, and feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or anywhere else, and come and support, buy some barbecue, and be a part of helping ANUG get on the road and do our political work to hopefully win this minority government come 2025. So Sunday, please feel free. ANUG has a barbecue, and I'm hoping you guys can come and take some pictures of our barbecue boxes, because I know that was a big trend on Facebook, to come and see if our barbecue boxes compare to the PPP and the PNC barbecues. All right. And let's see who's giving the taxpayers more value for their money. All right, guys. On that note, thank you for joining me here on this beautiful Friday. Please be safe on the roadways. It's dangerous out there. Please be very, very safe. Take your time. There's no rush. All right. It's a nice weekend coming up. And you guys, please make sure you get to spend some time with your families. And for all of you out there that are experiencing blackouts, my apologies. I'm truly hoping that, I know that promises have been made again, that the problems are going to be solved soon. But oh my gosh, I have to say this. It bothers me so much to say this. You know what I've done? I did over the last couple of days. You know what I've done? I've now started to fill up buckets in my bathroom again. I now have extra buckets that in my shower and on my sink in my kitchen and next to my toilet, because I don't know when we can get blackout next. And if I got blackout, I ain't got no water. And this thing, I sat down filling up this bucket going, what the hell have we come to? How are we, oil producing nation, in 2024, and I sitting here filling up a bucket? Oh, buddy, this thing got me angry. So, guys, please be prepared for the blackouts you're going to get, all right, in the coming next couple of days. But on that note, guys, thank you for joining me here once again. Be safe out there. I will see you here next Friday once again. Take care.